All right, hey everyone. So welcome to our first project. This is our project brief, and every project brief in the semester is going to have a similar setup that you see in Google Docs. Our first project is a letter form project. On the left is a good example of student work from previous semester where they're taking in the consideration of all the pieces of their letter and taking small notes. And on the right is one of three of the final letters that the student created. Yeah, I just really love the attention to detail on the one on the left, and I expect everyone to be thinking really closely in their letters when they get to this stage of their project. So let's look at the project brief. The problem is based on a typeface name, develop 3 legible balanced letters, 1 round, 1 angular, 1 mixed. For a display typeface design, letters should share structural and visual elements that both visually unify them as an alphabet and also convey the typeface name. So I don't know the typeface name for these letters, but these three are a really good example of how they all unify together. They all share the same triangle in their letters. All the angles are similar, and all of the feet kind of have the same size. And this is also a really good example of how everything is centered on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Your final needs to be on a Bristol board or any sort of hardstock sheet of paper, because if it's on regular like computer paper, it's going to wrinkle. The project objectives: to experiment with letter anatomy, share structure, stroke weight, and attitude in order to arrive at a visually cohesive set of letters. To develop an expressive set of letters which clearly convey or allude to the typeface name. Typeface names that you can choose from are on the right, and you're going to pick from one of this list to come up with a typeface name, and then that's going to help you develop a keyword, and then that keyword is what you're going to use to develop your letters. And then 3 is to evaluate the letters and make refinements to improve legibility and visual balance. Requirements: all letters are uppercase. Design 3 letters total, 1 round letter, O, C, and S, 1 angled letter, like a K, T, and a F, or one mixed letter, like a R, B, and a P. And the reason that you design each one of these is because once you have an O, you already have a C if you split the O in half. If you need to make a Q, you can add a little line right here, and then you have a Q. Same thing with a C. If you draw one half and you split it in half and then you mirror it, you can create an O. These are all the foundational pieces of letters. So if you can do a rounded, an angled, and a mix, then you can create the whole alphabet. And then third requirement is it needs to be hand-drawn in ink. And sitting and hand-drawing things is the best way to really get familiar with something, and we are going to get really familiar with letters for this first project. On the right is a good example. Well, it's a good example of how many variations this student did of the thumbnails. When you make these thumbnails, make sure you number them, because if you number them, it's going to be easier to reference. And when we're referencing them in Slack or in Pinup or anything like that, we can just say, wow, I really like thumbnail number 6. That looks awesome. Instead of saying, hey, I really like the one that's over here. And numbering them just makes it easier to talk about. Okay, final deliverables, final inked versions of each letter. There's going to be 3 of them, each centered on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Make sure it's hardstock or Bristol, not anything flimsy. Photograph or scan each letter and submit to Slack for critique. Include your name, typeface name, keyword in the Slack caption when you submit. So typeface name, you choose from this list, and then you're going to create a keyword out of that. And right here is an example of dot. Dot is their typeface name, and then they just brainstormed and they were trying to like come up with words that were associated to dot. And then whatever word they liked the most is what their keyword was. So maybe it was glass, because there's a little star here. And then from glass, they designed their 3 letters to convey glass. Okay, and then all process work, brainstorming, inspiration, images, sketches, and refinements all need to be photographed or scanned and submitted as a PDF, and combine them into one PDF file. Acrobat Reader is a good way to combine files. There might be other ways online, but this is the one that I know that works. And yeah, just make sure you're saving everything and you submit all of it in the process. Your evaluation criteria is process. So I'm looking at keywords, sketches, refinements, expressive form. Does your letter convey the name, the keyword that you came up with? Cohesive. Does everything look like a family? Anatomy exploration. So are you really considering different stems, ascenders, serif? Are the letters going to be non-serif? The spine of like an S, the bowl of a B. Clarity and craftsmanship requirements. So are you just following the requirements that are listed? And that is the project brief for our first project, letter forms.